So, when last we left off, the Left Stars had been staking out the hideout of the Slight, a local thieves guild who had been perhaps in over their heads in challenging another thieves guild in a neighboring city. After some discussion, you had eventually slipped a letter under the warehouse's door. And by some discussion, I mean 2 hours of debate. Slipped a letter under the warehouse's door to invite Strukel to a meeting. Strukel being the leader. And ASAP, once that meeting had eventually been taken, ASAP had been able to convince him to stand down, doing so without Strukel blowing up himself and his people in the warehouse in the process. So, good job. But after another expensive night at the stem and the return of both your cask, the cask that had been stolen by the Jade Mask, and the emerald, you were rewarded by the Unifiers, but told to stay in town for a week so that they could confirm your story, being as that the cask was really the only proof that you had. While some of you went back to the guilty lady to relax, Mouse had escorted Drada to Jerome and Cassandra's house, only to find an angry mob outside of it. So, I feel it would be valuable to just move on over to another map, just in case. You never really know what's going to happen here. And so just to give you a little bit of a picture of this, I've kind of rewinded to the point before you have cast the spells, and I've refunded the points so that you can cast it and put the template down. But you should see on your screen right now sort of this swath of people. I started to simplify some of the tokens, so these blue sort of pogs or blue pawns are just sort of like commoners. So those are just kind of people with clubs, and some of them have torches. There's Diana, who you've seen before, the leader of the Brass Spears, along with the Brass Spears themselves. And then there's a couple familiar figures who had less familiar to Mouse because you had sort of left the tavern brawl a few nights before, but the ones who sort of have the yellow and red circle are the thugs from Wayne's band. You were sort of on the periphery of this at the moment that you approached, and you see just sort of this like uproarious chanting and sort of protests surrounding this house. Combat has technically begun because you did cast some offensive spells. But so this is sort of you casting those spells is sort of a surprise round of sorts. And so I want to invite you guys to place those two spells, the Entangle and the Call Lightning, where you believe it to be most appropriate. Given the context, and you can move around you can move your token a little bit if you'd like, but it's sort of this is the angle that you're approaching from.
Did audio cut out for Bales? For Kevin? Look like you're still talking, but
No.
Oh, sorry.
Was there a I don't know if this is super rural or if there was like a side street that we could kind of be ducked down. I was trying to not be visible.
So this is a little bit more of a rural area. I will say that the boundaries of this map are not drawn out, so we'll just say that there's sort of more dense trees in this sort of darker area that you're standing in.
Got it.
Oh my god, I forgot that Call Lightning was so giant. Would it be better to remove this template and just say that you're covering the entire
Sure, we can do that. It's like, it's a 60-foot radius, so...
Okay, yeah. Let's just, for the sake of like visual clarity, we're going to get rid of that. And then Drada, you have drawn. So as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, you've sort of intentionally not capturing anybody in the entanglement, but it's sort of designed to be like spooky tendrils going up the building to sort of aid in the intimidation effort.
Which I'm realizing it's not centered on the door. Doesn't matter. I messed up and it's fine.
Like right there? Having moved it a little bit?
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
It's covering, it's on the building.
Okay.
When I cast Call Lightning, I think I get to immediately take a strike,
You do.
and I would throw that down, like, right here.
Okay.
Not actually close enough to damage anybody, but close enough to hopefully be scary.
So, go ahead and, again, this is the quote-unquote first round of combat. We'll roll initiative when we get into the quote-unquote second round of combat. But this is sort of a intimidation effort, not necessarily with the use of spells that cause fear, but nonetheless a sort of display of force. So both of you, if you want to just sort of re-describe or sort of aid in telling this, like how it is that you sort of reveal yourself and try to shake people away.
I am relying... I did say that I fluffed my hair up a little bit so that if I become visible, I look larger than I am, perhaps just like a figure kind of reflected in flashes of lightning. But I call from the sky, and what starts as what I believe was a clear, starry night. It's like the stars sort of descend and coalesce into this 120 foot across cloud that in a matter of 6 seconds becomes a very violent storm and crashes down with a strike of lightning not far from the front door.
For clarification, the voice is, when you're crying out, is it sounding like it's coming from you or from the heavens above?
I don't know that I was crying. Oh, I did cry out.
'Cause you said the words.
I did say some words. I said for them to leave. I don't have any way for it to not come from my mouth, so it would come from me.
Cool. Yeah, with that in mind, when Drada casts Entangle, kind of like ripping out of like the wood or stucco or whatever siding of the house, you see these really like rotted, gnarled kind of like roots and bits of wood and earth and like fungi start to appear. Specifically, I think, yeah, centering kind of around the door to make it look like almost like the vampires are casting defensive magic, trying to put on as much of a show as possible. Also, noticing that there are some recognizable faces from our combat in the tavern. Given how Drada ended that combat in the dark just with a cocking of the crossbow, I think Drada just like steps out from behind a tree and repeats that same sound. Just loads the crossbow just to hopefully make those one or two people recognize it.
Okay. Just for your awareness, the torchlight coming from these folks is enough to sort of reveal you, depending on positioning and whatnot. But beyond that, the night sky is generally enough to hopefully cover you, but we'll see. So I would like you both... So there's sort of a number of groups here. There's the Wayne's thugs, there's the brass spears, and then there's the commoners. So I'm going to ask you to sort of make different intimidation checks to sort of affect those different groups, rather than like one roll natural 20, everybody runs away. You know what I mean? They sort of have different levels of morale, and so if you could each roll, or one of you roll intimidation with advantage, We'll start with the commoners.
You want to do one each?
Works for me. Storms are scary.
Okay. I should, in fairness, I should try to give them a good old save of some kind. Now, the commoners are the immediate reaction that you get is that the commoners are less emboldened by perhaps Diana and the brass spears and the thugs, in that they are not really equipped. They have 3 hit points. Okay, they don't have the ability to withstand any danger at all, and you find quickly that they seem to be dispersing. The commoners are, but you do know that it's going to be harder. You're going to need a higher roll for the other groups. So if we want to move on to Wayne's thugs, these people have a higher DC than the commoners. Well, yeah, they have a higher DC than the commoners, but they have seen what you guys are capable of before. So they are the next most frightenable, I would say. If you want to do the same thing, feel free.
Or not so good.
Okay. There are a few of... I'm just sort of like... Their DC was 15, is what I'd kind of said. And there's a total of 4 of them. So my feeling is that like half of them will probably run away at the end of this. And it'll probably be the closest ones, the ones who are most witnessing sort of Drada's... because there are some that are on the other side of the building who don't really see this as well. Moving forward to the brass spears. They are most emboldened by their leader, and so I would like one final check with disadvantage from each of you to see how they are affected by this.
Disadvantage from each of us, or we each roll 1 and take the lower of the 2?
From each of you.
That's fine. I really want to strike somebody with lightning. I was just holding back because it was the right thing to do.
Okay. So the long and short of it, and I'm just going to clear off the map a little bit just for the sake of simplicity, but the long and short of it is that you've whittled out the commoners who just don't have time or life to handle this. You have gotten rid of a few of the thugs and only seemingly one of the brass spears. I'm going to give somebody else a torch. So it's sort of, I say this to you because as you make this sort of intimidating effort, you need to be aware that this is still potentially a challenge for the 2 of you. And so from here, we will go ahead and roll initiative, and then we'll see what happens. Let me bring that up.
Clax, Aesop and I are all, like a couple miles away?
Yeah.
Do we see a storm cloud out our window?
Are you randomly looking out the window?
Probably.
Sorry, I'm failing at rolling stuff. I'm setting everybody up. Okay, is everybody on? Okay, I think I do have everybody on. So I've shared with you the potential for danger here. I'm just making sure that is sort of recognized, but there's, the posture that you see them sort of immediately take is sort of centered around the leader, Diana. She sort of notices these swaths of people running away, and as she sort of grips her spear more intently and points it into the direction of where some of the vocal components of these spells came from, she sort of faces it towards you and says, "Seize them!" And it's pretty simple in that regard. That said, they can't see very well. 'Cause it's dark, so they're just trying to get in there. Apologies, I'm trying to remember what everybody can do. One of these brass spears approaches you sort of with a defensive posture, but is not getting in range of you at this very moment. And you hear just sort of more people approaching from the side of the building, clearly stepping around the vines. They don't have. He has a torch, so he's able to sort of navigate past that. This one can reach Mouse and is just going to take a swing. There's a nature of this that they're sort of hitting with the blunt end of their weapons, just so you're aware. They're trying to sort of like capture you is the appearance that you get. But he does miss. This one is going to take a defensive posture as well. And Mouse, it's your turn.
I am just going to shout directly at Diana and say, "This doesn't have to be a fight. You can leave. There's no need for this." But I will clap my hands above my head and I will hold a strike of Call Lightning right here so that it's just past. Nope. I want to, maybe this guy, because I don't want to be within 5 feet of it. 5 feet, right?
Is it? I didn't actually know. Is Call Lightning a AoE? Oh, it is. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll aim between them so that I'm not within the 5-foot radius. And I will let that go if anybody attacks me or Drada.
Okay. This one is up. It seems that people are. This one has a crossbow and is going to fire it at Drada. Thugs seem to be a little more aggressive, perhaps.
Guess we're good at calls of lightning.
Drada, what's your AC?
It's that good 15 now.
Hey, that's pretty high. So remind me, you are holding your action until when?
I had said until someone attacked either me or Drada.
Okay.
Well,
a bolt has whizzed past Drada. I will say that the leader hasn't really had a turn yet, so it's sort of up to you.
Am I allowed to wait?
Yeah, you can. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeking clarity, sort of, to give you that chance.
Got it. I was saying I did it just because I maybe wasn't specific enough in my trigger. I would wait.
Okay. At the top of Diana's turn, she sort of, now that you guys are a little bit more well lit, she looks to both of you and says, "I recognize you. You were at the barracks a little while ago. This doesn't concern you." And she sort of like pauses in the sense that she's not charging you. but that she has sort of initiated conversation. But Drada, it's your turn.
I think Drada's crossbow is still very much up. And I think, again, we're learning some lessons. Maybe it's a great idea not to just shoot right away. Calls back over to Diana. Again, this very much does concern us. Also, this seems like a flagrant violation of the law. I don't know what would happen if the unifiers were to find out. And then after that, I think in a similar stance to Mouse, would ready a shot to go out if they were attacked again.
So she sort of responds at what you said and sort of shouts back, "The unifiers don't have jurisdiction here. I make the law."
I'm pretty sure that's not how that works entirely. I'm relatively new here, and like I might not be the smartest person ever, but like no. Like, we have an established relationship with them. We've actively helped them and your city. We helped right or wrong that will surely increase your economy and whatnot. So maybe it's in your best interest to calm this
down. I will just sort of level set to say, every combat round is 6 seconds, so you can't have a drawn-out conversation.
Drada's gonna speak eloquently.
No. You get that message across. I just want to make sure that we're aware that things are moving quickly. But if you end your turn, the brass spear, who sort of was taking a defensive stance, looks back to Diana, sort of like deciding what he should do. Can you make a persuasion, Drada?
Yeah, those go so well.
This particular brass spear looks back, looks to be questioning what he's hearing around him, looks back to Diana, who nods, and then he turns back and starts walking towards you.
Still not gonna shoot unless he attacks.
I mean, he's going to attack, so he'll get his attack off first.
That's the case, that's fine.
And he failed miserably, so.
Great. With that, let's do some lovely hand crossbow bolts.
Just to be clear, who are you firing at? The one who just walked?
I would be firing at the person who just attacked me directly.
Okay. That hits.
I'd also love to specify, again, I know with piercing it's hard, you can't really do non-lethal, but like aiming for like the legs and knees and like trying not to go for a head or heart blow right now.
Okay. Yes, it is hard, but I would say if it gets to that point, we'll talk about it. It's sort of like, how much blood are you going to preventing them from bleeding out is sort of the hard part. But he takes a arrow to the thigh and seems to be in pretty significant pain already. Mouse, are you reacting with your held action at all?
I mean, yeah, he hurt my friend. I know Millie thinks it's a bad idea, but Mouse is doing it. So they both need dex saves.
Alrighty. I only rolled for one of them.
Real shit damage, so it's fine.
I mean, they don't have a lot of hit points. They are regular old town guards. So it is a DC 15. I think they both succeed.
We both take 4 points of lightning damage.
The one who Drada had already hit does get blown away and seems to be dead. Do with that information what you will.
I just shout out again, we don't have to do this.
You really don't. We did not shoot / call lightning first. It wasn't on us.
Kinda need to kill all of them now.
All right. So I'm just debating what to do as a DM. If one of you could roll another intimidation check, it's sort of like as these guards witness one of their own just get obliterated in the first moments.
I got you. Scary lightning storm.
Yeah, this... Let me see. On the off chance that they are just the bravest souls in the world. Yeah, no. The two brass spears who are going next in the initiative, they sort of like drop their weapons and start running. And you just sort of like get the impression immediately that Diana, they're just going in directions. I'm not measuring their movement, so you tell me if I ever need to measure. But they're just getting out of here, and Mouse at the top of your turn, you just sort of look towards Diana, and she's just like, well, first of all, she can't really see you anymore because the torches are, well, no, they would have dropped the torches that they had probably over here. You're looking at her, and she is sort of still looking aggressively towards you.
I will slowly walk towards her to be a little bit more in the light, and once again raise my hands up over my head to start to call lightning, and just say, "Leave our friends alone. You don't have to do this. I don't want to hurt you. This isn't a fight that has to go down." They're not hurting anybody.
Make a persuasion check with disadvantage.
Very persuasive. Oh, I'm actually kind of persuasive.
More persuasive than I am.
Really?
She looks towards you with your held action, and she says, "As I said, this isn't your problem, but it is now. If you don't leave, you won't be welcome in the city any longer." Do with that information what you will, but these other individuals, one of which is these are not brass spears. This one's just going to fire at Mouse. I think your AC has been upgraded recently.
Yeah.
Wow. A crossbow bolt just whizzes past you as Wayne's prior employees seem to just completely be failing. Are you using your reaction from that, or your call lightning just from these random bolts flying by?
I will wait until someone does damage.
Okay.
Also, I'm not sure. I just want to clarify if this was the intent. Every time that they're making an attack, it still seems like on like DM private dice mode.
Yep. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, they're rolling poorly.
Love that for them. Don't want that to stop, but
let me see.
How'd you use that?
Yeah, Diana. It's sort of like this is a pretty stalwart figure who you cannot probably convince her to change her mind on this, but she's aware that she's outgunned. And so she sort of turns to you as you're preparing to unleash another bolt, and she says, "If I ever see you again, you're going to have a problem." And then she sort of like does one of those, like, wrap it up to anybody who's still around and looks to be leaving.
okay, Karen.
Fantasy Karen.
Fantasy Karen.
Diana's the new Karen.
Yeah. I will ask before we just move tokens. Like, are you just letting them go?
Yeah.
I think crossbow is up and very much like if anyone moves one step out of line, a bolt's gonna fly, but it can go.
I mean, it's still storming, but
Yeah.
I'll say as she leaves, I don't know how anyone can be welcome when we're not all welcome.
Doesn't stop
Really
her.
excited to meet with the unifiers tomorrow.
Nothing you say pauses her movement.
Is that a guard on the ground dead, or like death saving throws dead?
Well, I mean, they were blasted by lightning. So if somebody wants to check on them, you may feel free.
Can I just healing word and wake him up?
If you want to do that, you may.
Can I intentionally roll the lowest damage or lowest healing? I don't want to hurt anybody if I don't have to.
If you want to use healing word as if it were spare the dying by spending a level 2 spell slot, then that's fine.
Spare the dying's level 2?
Well, no, it's a cantrip, but I'm saying if you're stabilizing him with a level 2 spell.
That's fair. I'll take it.
Well, I admit that I was expecting that to go a little longer. But
Glad it didn't.
Nonetheless, as the storm is sort of crackling above you still, and you're just holding the power to unleash it at any moment in your hands, aside from those winds in the air and just sort of like the sound of like rustling, twisting vines across the building, what went from just a minute ago an uproarious riot has sort of become otherwise still.
Do you want to go inside, tell them to start packing, and let them know that we need to get them out of town?
Oh, that sounds great.
I'll stay out here and keep watch, just in case somebody comes back.
Or like a knock or something I need to do, or like any...
I mean, I'll holler if... Oh, right. I'll knock. Because they know...
Yeah.
They know both of us at this point. I'll knock and just holler in, Cassandra, it's okay, We got rid of them.
They're gone. I don't know how long, but they're gone.
It takes probably 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and you're starting to wonder if anybody is in there or heard you at all before you start to hear the telltale signs of like latches being moved, and seemingly a long process of unlocking this door eventually ends with sort of the sort of red tiefling face of Cassandra peeking just from a crack of the door. First she's looking this way towards Drada, and then she looks down to Mouse. And she just says, it's been a long couple of days, thank you.
Imagine.
Come in. If it's clear.
I'll stay out here and keep watch. I'm also gonna let our friends know that we're okay, but...
And I head inside, just like give a thumbs up to Mouse as I go in.
I will look for a tiny beast that I can use as an animal messenger.
Make a perception check.
You betcha. Birdie!
There is the sound of lightning had forced a lot of little critters and such to ground, but it's sort of in this now new silence. You just see like a squirrel sort of poking its head out of a tree trunk nearby, seeing if the coast is clear.
And I will gather up said creature and hold it up in my hands. And if I have any like scrap crumbs, try to feed it and make it happy. And I will describe Aesop, in part because he has very distinguished features, and point in the direction that I believe the rest of the party is. And I will say, Drada and I got in a fight, checking on Cassandra. We need to get them out of town and lay low for a couple of days. Not sure if you all are implicated by association. Keep your eyes open. And that's all. Because I'm probably out of words.
Fair. And the squirrel skitters off in the direction that you directed it. Drada, you were brought in to a relatively small house, and what you see is that there was the couch has been sort of placed over what is sort of an underground cellar that Cassandra sort of starts to pull the couch out so that the cellar door can be opened. She kind of gives like a distinctive knocking sound on the door and says, it's me, I'm opening it up. And then she pauses for like 5 seconds after that and then just opens it. And then down in the hole in sort of a single bed, you just sort of are looking down, and there's a room with a single bed and like a small chest that one would put their personal effects in, and otherwise dark cellar with just only lit by like a small candle, that Jerome is at the bottom kind of looking up at you and Cassandra.
You hanging in? How's it been?
There's sort of a mournful look on his face.
Yeah, I figured. So the people outside are gone. Would really recommend that y'all mosey out of this town stat. Literally everywhere else seems to be a great idea of where to go. I'm so sorry.
He starts to climb up from the cellar and onto the main level, and he sort of assesses the building, sees that it's not on fire or anything, and looks to you and says, I'm sorry that you took a few slashes on my behalf a few days ago. I'm glad to see that you made it out.
Glad to see you made it out too.
He nods, and Cassandra sort of speaks up and says, every time we take him outside, his skin starts to turn red. There's not...
Yeah, this is a good reminder. Thank you for bringing that up. And out of my bag, this is why I purchased 2 parasols. I offer him a black parasol. It's not perfect, but this should help if you have to go outside during the day.
He takes it and sort of...
So cute. You look cute in it.
He smiles briefly, although it's sort of like out of character in this moment for him to do so. And he says, I appreciate this. I don't know if it will... I don't know if this will do the trick. I don't know if you've seen the level of damage that...
Yeah.
Well, it's...
Just figured another layer might not be of help. But if you wanted to get out of town in one of the next few nights, my party and I would be more than happy to try to get you out here as smoothly as possible. I don't know how safe it is to stay.
He sort of just exchanges a sidelong glance with Cassandra, and he sort of says to her, like, it's not fair to ask me to come with you, or ask you to come with me. But, and then she sort of interrupts and says, it's fine. I know that you need me now, but we'll figure it out. And then he sort of turns to you and says, well, I suppose your party's support would help, but really the going outside is the problem. I'm sure he sort of looks to Cassandra again and sort of looks back at you and says, I know there's caravans that go in and out of town. I'm sure I could sneak aboard one of them and make my way out. We could make our way out, but he sort of looks like he's shy to say something.
Go on. It's okay.
Frankly, who's going to allow us to leave, and who's I don't have the money to pay off somebody at the stable house to arrange for that.
If you need money to do that, I'm more than happy to oblige.
I couldn't
may or
ask
may
for
not
that.
have just gotten involved in settling a thieving guild war and came into some wealth. I'm more than happy to put down and getting y'all out.
Cassandra speaks up and says, it's very generous. I don't understand why you would do that.
It's the least I can do.
Just zooming out of the house for a moment. So, Mouse, are you just sort of doing a perimeter check of the house what is Mouse up to?
Yes, I would start by walking the perimeter, and then perhaps, with my... Oh, I don't have dark vision, and it's nighttime. I am a little scared that someone would come back and regain their gumption, so I will become, I think, a panther again. Let me double check that they have dark vision and climb up on the roof and look from there so that I have dark vision to be able to see if anybody is approaching.
Okay. Off the top of my head, I don't remember which things have dark vision and don't, but if you want to figure that out, there were some torches that were dropped that would probably provide temporary relief, but they would eventually burn out, so. But while you're figuring that out, back in the house, there's sort of like a look of acceptance that comes from Jerome as he sort of claps you on the shoulder, Drada, and says, well, I don't know what to say, but we would certainly owe you one.
It's all good. How much time do you guys need in order to get ready?
He sort of like looks out. He pulls the curtains out from one window and sort of looks into the sky, and says, I realistically don't think that any passage could be arranged between now and when it's light out. So we could be ready by tomorrow evening.
Okay. We'll see what we can do, and we can keep you posted. Are you going to stay here, or is somewhere else that might be better? I mean, we have rooms. You're welcome to come back to the tavern in which you got viciously attacked. Don't recommend it, but it's an option.
He knows that you're joking, but he's just sort of taken aback a bit and says, I hate to say it, but I would feel safer here, at least for the short term, given that the danger is past, at least temporarily.
I'll see what I can do about trying to have one of my friends or I nearby during the day too, just to keep things locked down a little bit.
He just sort of nods and I suppose we'll just get started packing and preparing. You're welcome to stay if you'd like, or any of your party. It's not a lot of space, but
I'll let you know, we might take you up on that. I think I start making my way make my way out of the cavern, but as I kind of go, before I finish going out, I turn back and just kind of like grab the choker that has the symbol of the two overlapping circles on it and just go like, future reference, if you ever see someone wearing something like this or something that has this insignia on it, more often than not, they'll be a friend.
He sort of like reaches for it, just to get a kind of closer inspection of it, and just says, "Is like some kind of sanctuary, or
not exactly?
Where would I find that, or where would I find friends?" I haven't really lived outside of Mistral.
Boy, howdy. Anywhere is better than here. I'm not shitting on your hometown by any means.
No, please feel
I've
free.
been here a mere several weeks. A large tree with a store in it is delightful. Your architecture's lovely.
I'll keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out. I'd say around here, probably not too common. Dusklight may be more common, and if you leave the continent, nowhere to go.
He sort of like narrows his eyes slightly, but then nods and sort of like releases the choker. And then he and Cassandra just move on to packing and getting ready. Drada, you said you're leaving for now, or?
Yeah, I think to talk to Mouse and go over. Okay, we need to get an action plan together and stat.
You see an animal that is shaped like mouse, or
And I go, great, hi.
You come outside and there's a giant wolf spider on the roof.
Oh, it's a wolf spider. That's an exciting update. Honestly, I think Drada spent enough time in caves that he would be like, "Aw, friend," and like give you several pets. And then be like, okay, they need to get out of here soon.
it's a little mouse spider.
A mouse spider.
Not creepy at all.
Yeah, not creepy
Love
at all.
spiders.
Beautiful.
There's
Love
like just
spiders.
green beads all over it instead of eggs. Yeah.
Interspersed throughout this entire conversation, you're getting lots of scritches on like your abdomen, head, the like furry looking part. They need to yeah, we should get them out of here like stat. If we need to bribe a stablesman to get them a caravan, I am more than happy to do so. Also, definitely may have volunteered us to help them get out of town. I recognize that not everyone in the party may want to do that, and I'm fine doing it with whatever support I have. Yeah, we need to make this happen because they shouldn't be here anymore. This town blows, and they deserve better.
I assume that I have not seen anything in the periphery that makes me think bad guys are coming back.
Correct. I'm not even going to make you roll. The night has stilled significantly. There is the matter of the unconscious body that is just sort of sleeping on the sidewalk. But
I mean that he's fine. There's nothing wrong with sleeping outside. But if that's the case, I will drop form so that we can chat. And just thinking, I think when we came in at the north gate.
correct.
But there also appears to be a south and a east gate. Have we been close to either of those to know if the level of security and checks seem similar?
I don't know that you have the expertise. That's probably something you'd want to talk to Clax about. I don't know that you
Fair.
would keep an eye out for such things.
It's a fair conversation. I think, given where we're at now, part of me would be inclined to have them leave through the east gate, just for fires don't seem to be terrible towards them, and that's where the bulk of their forces are concentrated right nearby. Also puts them in the direction we're going, so if we wanted to be able to help, we could. Also, if they go far enough, I don't know, part of me thinks they could maybe disappear in consonance in a big enough city more effectively.
Hey, Drada, do vampires need to breathe?
Not to my knowledge.
You can roll a history check or a nature check.
Sure. No, I should have rolled nature. It's fine. Well,
Don't think it would matter.
Yeah, I don't think it perhaps hasn't occurred to you, is what we'll say.
I would like to talk this over with everybody else, but I don't know that I'm confident leaving them alone for the night.
I mean, I can see in the dark. If you want to leave me here, that's fine. I also assume you can probably move faster than I can.
In one direction. We're only an hour away.
So do you? What is your what is your sort of path?
Are you okay with that?
Fine with that, yeah.
We agree that we need to get them out of town tomorrow.
Tomorrow
some
night,
point.
ideally.
Yeah. I'll go see
Okay.
if anybody has any good ideas. I keep an eye out for a squirrel.
Sorry, you're keeping it out for another squirrel?
I was telling Drada to keep an eye out for a squirrel.
Gotcha.
Oh, great. Yeah. I think as you head off, I would also knock on the door and again just go, "Hi, it's me, Drada, again. I'm just letting you know that I'm going to be keeping watch outside for a while, just as precaution. So if you need anything, I'm here."
Also, does he need to breathe?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Also, do you need to breathe? No.
Camera fades to black as we move on to a different scene. So thank you to the rest of the players who have sat patiently for the last hour as all that unfolded.
That was quite exciting.
So we'll rewind time a little bit to before, you guys were just chilling with Nal at the Guilty Lady. Nothing in the immediate seems to be happening. Are you guys just hanging out? Is there any specific conversations you want to have?
Do you guys think we should have went with them?
Probably. They should be fine though, right? I mean, they know Jerome and the other lady, and things should be fine.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's trouble, they know to come get us first, right? Like, that's...
Yeah, they wouldn't go too far away.
So what do you guys want to do with this whole week in in Mistral?
I have a few things. I mean, I'm excited for my pen. Figure out how it works.
Yeah, it'll be good to have a week of downtime, Although, I don't love the idea that the Unifiers have explicitly told us we can't leave town for a week.
It's a full price to pay for the issues we've made up here. Plus, we have to stick around anyway for
That's true.
Aesop's pen. So I'm looking at a chance to. Oh, go ahead, Aesop.
Oh, just as long as we don't make any other ruckus in town, we should be fine.
I think it'll be good. Relax. Get to go through some katas in the morning. Really stretch. Do some training. It's been a while since I really spent time on my craft. It'll be nice to kind of actually relax because the last couple weeks really been a whirlwind since I met you guys. So
This is true.
it'd be very nice to relax and be quiet.
Nal speaks up and says, "Have you guys gotten into more trouble since I last saw you?"
And we dealt with a Thieves Guild, or
Yeah.
Thieves Guild War.
Yeah. Actually, we avoided a lot of trouble, if you ask me. I think we did
Yeah.
pretty well.
It's true.
Also, if we hadn't, we might have been blown up with a warehouse. So there's that.
Blown up with a what now?
The warehouse. So,
They just blow up from time to time?
if you fill it with enough black powder, yeah, they will blow up.
Been an exciting week. Or, well, 3 days? I don't know how many days.
You see Nal pull out like a little notebook of sort of like jobs that she's considering, and she crosses off warehouse worker.
So now, what have you been up to?
Just been getting a lay of the land, deciding if this is the place for me or not. Kind of seems like this town has its issues, but also has opportunity. So just moseying around, taking some time off.
You don't have any interest in going to Dusklight, do you?
Where's that? And why?
Just we've got some friends that could use an escort. It's way up north.
I mean, if you're offering me a job, I'm sure we can figure that out.
We'll see. Once our friends get back from talking with them, see if maybe they're interested.
For the sake of brevity, you eventually find a squirrel that delivers a perhaps concerning message to you about the activities of your other two party members and the position that you might find yourselves in by association.
The little squirrel just runs up to me, and I'm like, "Oh, hello! It's odd for you to just come in here, but sure."
And then you hear Mouse's voice erupting from it.
Is it just heard by me or by everyone else?
Good question.
I think it's just by me. Speaks only to a creature matching the description.
Yes.
Oh,
well, I think the sound would. My impression is that it speaks aloud in your direction.
Got it.
So
I didn't
everybody
know if
else.
It was a mind thing. Okay.
Yeah. That's my interpretation, so we'll just go with it for now. But so for now, all of you hear Mouse's voice just erupting from the squirrel, warning you of dangers.
Well, there goes our relaxing days.
Well, I guess we better get moving. Who knows what kind of trouble they got into then?
I mean, they're a ways away. There's not
You
much
also
we'd
don't
be able
really
to do there.
know where the house is.
That's also true.
I have not been there.
No. None of us have.
So we have two options. We can go look for them, or we can just wait here and, for lack of a better term, hope for the best.
I feel like looking for them though might take longer if we just waited for them to come back to where they know where we are.
Did the message specifically mention that it was a fight with the brass spear?
I don't think so. I don't remember saying the brass spear.
I think
Okay.
you got into a conflict or something of that nature. You guys knew that they were going to go see Jerome and Cassandra, but that's all you can sort of figure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just wait here. I don't know that we could reliably go find them.
Not ideal, but well, gotta start just going through, make sure my straps are all adjusted, my armor's where it needs to be, hacks are ready. Finish the beer I have now, and I have another one.
Hey, maybe we'll finally get to do that prison break.
Oh God, I'm not looking forward to anything.
But if you're implying that Mouse and Drawda might be the ones we're breaking out, weren't they kind of the two people we really needed for the prison break?
Nah, I can pick locks.
I can
Fine.
disguise myself.
Sounds like you guys are staying put. Go ahead.
If I may recommend, I say we take a kind of rotating watches either by a window or out front, just to see if anything's coming our way, anything's going on.
Okay. If you want to, each of you who are in the Guilty Lady, roll a perception check.
Nice. Good rolls.
Okay.
Oh.
I think because it is pretty far away, Flint, you do see. So it's like the animal messenger's already reached you, and therefore the call lightning has long passed. But I would say you see sort of the remnants of like a lone sort of cloud that is just sort of hovering in a direction, and you don't really know what to make of that because you've never really seen Mouse do what she does, but it just strikes you as an odd thing on the horizon, and you see like other people sort of pointing up to it as well. It's no longer stormy, but it is sort of like it's just sort of an odd cloud in an otherwise clear day. But really nothing of consequence catches you. And eventually both Clax and Flint, you are just the first to see Mouse returning as Mouse sort of arrives into the Guilty Lady.
So we got your message. Everything all right?
I'm not even sure that I would fully go in. If somebody was looking at the window, I would maybe try to have a conversation like out back or in a side street.
Sure. You do a little like call out when somebody spots you from the window.
And absolutely go.
Yep, it doesn't bode well. Head
Hey
outside.
guys.
Now's holding your table.
Hey guys,
How
we
much
have a little bit of a
trouble?
problem.
We heard from your squirrel.
Uh-huh.
It was a really good squirrel. Yeah, so apparently there was a little bit more anti Jerome unrest than we had thought. When we showed up there was essentially a mob outside of his house with torches shouting, and they're not in a safe space. We think it's pretty essential that we get them out of town. The plan is for Drada and I to figure out a way to do that before sunset tomorrow.
How much trouble are we in?
So that's the piece that I don't know. Diana, you remember Diana?
Yeah.
She was freaking mean.
Yeah, so she said, actually, it wasn't super clear. She wasn't very direct about it, but she made it sound like it would be best if she didn't ever see Drada or I again. I don't know if that extends to you all.
Probably for the best. Okay. So we've got one group telling us we have to leave, and another group telling us we can't leave.
And from experience, I'd put way more weight into what the unifiers say than I would the brass spears.
I'd agree. Sounds like Brass Spirits needs a change of management.
So maybe we talk to the unifiers tomorrow, see what they can tell us, if they can give us an exception to leave town, or maybe help out Jerome, or at least let Jerome and Cassandra leave, or something.
Do we trust them enough to help facilitate, or is that something that we should try to sneak them out ourselves?
I mean, they didn't seem to have a problem, or at least one of the unifiers that we saw didn't seem to have a problem with Cassandra's caravan or whatever having blood when they ran into them on the road. So they seem more friendly than most. They seemed to be aware, at least to some extent, that the brass spears were not friendly towards the vampires, I think. And I think weren't they the ones that told us about Dusklight? So I think, yeah, I think they are more friendly towards vampires.
So then what's our next move?
I mean, I think we talk to the unifiers and see if they're able to help out, and maybe see how much Nal wants to kind of escort them up that way, or to wherever it is they want to go.
That's a good idea. Now was saying she's looking for a job, and this is A, gets her money, and B, gets her somewhere else to find another job.
Probably ask her how she feels about vampire. But
And does she need to know, though?
I think
well, I think it
become pretty obvious pretty quickly.
That's true.
And Nal's been good to us. Like, I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. Nal's been good to us. Didn't seem to have a big issue with like the kobolds. Seems open-minded, so
All right.
50 gold to escort a caravan seems pretty good money.
So I think we see about talking to the unifiers tomorrow. See about getting safe passage and let them know about the unrest that the brass spears are causing. See if I'm not hopeful that they will take any action on that. I think that's more one of those. That's a local matter. They'll probably stay out of it for the most part. But we never know. But then at least if we know that they're not going to impede us getting Jerome and Cassandra out, then we can at least make sure that's taken care of. Again, as long as we stay in town, I think is the big thing.
Strata and I had talked about trying to secure a carriage, but it sounds like if you guys are going to talk to the unifiers, perhaps that could be lumped in. I don't know.
They're going to supply us with a carriage, but
just allow us passage. Allow them
Cassandra.
passage.
I mean, Cassandra had a
cart,
like
right?
covered wagon or something like that, didn't she? Or maybe that was her group's.
Yeah, the caravan.
Yeah, she was with a caravan. That wasn't necessarily her caravan.
All right. So we should talk to the unifiers and price out getting a covered wagon of some kind and a horse.
Strata and I can probably take care of that. I don't know how much FaceTime we want to have with people in power.
So what exactly went down tonight?
I mean, nobody died. Only one person really got hurt, and it was sort of his own fault.
It's better than we've already done here and gotten to far less trouble than I expected.
I mostly just wanted to scare them off.
The fact you're here means you did a pretty good job. Good job, Mouse.
Thanks. Doesn't feel good yet.
By the way, where's Strata?
They stay behind to keep watch. We weren't confident that we didn't want to leave Cassandra and Jerome alone in case the mob came back.
Okay.
That's smart.
If that's the
Although
case,
maybe we should have discussed
probably
a way for Drada to contact us, but I didn't think of that until right now.
no worries, but we might want to tend to stay together if we're trying to get someone out. Like, I'm worried. You know, if this was there anybody at this thing, other than Diana, was there anybody else that you recognized?
So, Kevin, question for you, because I wasn't really in that bar fight. Would I have recognized Wayne's thugs?
I don't think you would recognize the individual faces. You weren't there to see which ones survived and which ones didn't. But there was the sort of like telltale black leather uniform and weaponry that they had that sort of you just have a flash reminder of that was definitely the same crew.
I will relay that.
Can I actually quickly run inside and just sort of try to subtly ask, the barkeep guy.
Dantavius.
Dantavius. Just let him know there's been some drama with Jerome, since he seemed to know him and like him. Just ask if, Dantavius might have some sort of quiet place that Jerome could stay for a day or two. Like, I don't know if he's got a house separate from here somewhere, maybe, or something. Somewhere people wouldn't think to go look for him.
You run in and sort of, well, I'm going to say it's really late. Because at this time, you're kind of getting past midnight. You're already in the next day, so I don't know that Dantavius is actually there.
All right, fair enough. We'll ask him in the morning. Whenever he's there.
So do we head on over as a group, stay together?
Oh, you think stay at...
Again,
yeah.
not knowing, like, the fact that they were all scared off and no one was injured or wounded is good, but at the same time, does that mean that they're going to come back again later? And it's
Right.
not like they moved locations or anything.
Yeah.
Again, it is
That makes
late,
sense.
so hopefully, since it's late, people are going back and licking wounds, and they need time to drum up additional people. But the problem with a mob like that, especially if there were people who saw it and their pride's hurt.
There's probably a lot of pride that was destroyed.
Yeah, let's head back to Cassandra's.
Mouse, do you mind leading the way? And then I'll just run in real quick and let Nal know. Hey, sorry to leave you hanging, but we ran some problems. If you want to come,
squirrel. Heard from the squirrel. Sounds exciting.
you're more welcome to join. But if you want to hold down the fort, we'll hopefully be back in the morning.
I think roll persuasion check.
Oh, oof.
Come on, Clax.
I don't want to give the impression that she dislikes you.
Oh,
Uh,
17.
she says, "If you think you need me, I suppose I could tag along."
Again, up to you. If
Do
you're
you
looking
need
for,
me or not?
do we need you? No, I don't think we need to do it. Go ahead, Flint. What you got?
I was just going to say, it might be for the best. Cassandra and Jerome are a little skittish. So
Leave now behind, you mean?
maybe for
Okay.
tonight, leave now here. Although, you should think about how much you might charge to escort a caravan. We maybe looking for somebody that wants an easy job for a bit.
I'll let you know.
Alright.
Yeah, she'll stay put for now.
All right, later now. Mouse, where are we headed?
And I will lead the way back to Jerome's, trying to obviously keep an eye out and also not draw too much attention to ourselves, despite being a large party at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to make anybody roll it. There's a stillness that has hit the night, as perhaps like Clax predicted, everybody's gone home to lick their wounds at the very least. Drada, is there anything you're doing just sort of in this time that you are alone with Cassandra and Jerome?
Or I figured I'm probably outside. I'm assuming they're inside packing or doing whatnot. I'm on the roof scouting.
At some point, yeah, you hear the sounds of like simple packing and things of that nature. At some point, Cassandra does walk out and sort of is scanning for you.
Hi.
She looks up and I assume you kind of reveal yourself because of the
Oh yeah,
soccer.
I'll fully forget to, and then I'm like, oh, sorry, and then like scamper down.
And she says, I think we were going to, well, I was planning to sleep for the night. So, if there's anything you need, she sort of like hands you the key, and like suggests that like you're welcome to make a run of the place if you want, but we need to get some rest if we're to prepare ourselves for tomorrow. So,
if you hear any commotion, I hope the rest of my party shows up shortly. I'm hoping it ain't. If anything else goes down, you'll hear.
We'll be in the cellar, so if any of you want
I hope
to
you
stay,
won't then, and I hope you sleep wonderfully.
Yeah, ideally, yes. But you're welcome to, if people want to sleep in the living room or whatever.
Okay, that's very good to know, thanks. Good night then. Or best night you can.
She sort of pauses for a minute, just for like a few seconds, and then nods and goes back in. And eventually, the rest of the party does come an hour later, to the point where you're pretty sure that Jerome and Cassandra are probably asleep by now, by the time you all regroup.
Hello.
Hey, Drada, how's it holding up?
You know, nothing eventful in the several hours since a hate crime occurred.
That's good.
I think they're asleep at this point. You're welcome to use the space if we need to crash for the rest of the night. I don't know how much Mouse has relayed, but I don't think this is the best place for them necessarily.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that seems to be the case.
I also just like, I'm not going to apologize for what we did because I think it was the right thing to do. But like, I'm aware that I am part of a group and my actions can reflect the broader group. Drada says, staring at Aesop.
I'm not saying a single word.
And Drada, after that dripping in sarcasm, says sincerely, like, I'm sorry to complicate things.
I don't think any of us are worried about that. We're just more glad that you guys are safe and intact. And on our way over, after Mouse briefed us, we talked. We're gonna try and speak to the Unifiers tomorrow. Just give them a little heads up on the fact that Diana was involved, and then we're also Flint had the great idea of if we're trying to get Cassandra and Jerome out, maybe now would be looking for some work to maybe be an escort. So I think that's definitely something worth exploring. Now I don't know how much money Nal's going to want, but she's been trustworthy so far. So
Speaking of Flint's great ideas,
what do you got?
hear me out here.
Mm-hmm.
So the brass spears are all in that tower keep of theirs, and we know where there's a whole bunch of black powder.
Oh my god. Sure. Listening. Continue. Yeah.
I think I'm starting to understand the equation you're proposing. I'd like to introduce another variable, that being time. In that I love this, but love this after we get the vulnerable people out of here. And then Annie, Diana, Karen told us to get the fuck out, and frankly, I do not care. If we need to be here anyways. That sounds like a lovely final day in town situation if we want to go down.
I mean, I think Avendir would probably not like it, but it's a fun thought experiment.
I'm unfamiliar with places quite this big. Where do people in towns this size bury their dead?
Graveyards?
Graveyards. Also thinking about it more, I say this semi out of character. Flesh, I just remembered back. Vamps definitely don't need to breathe.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know if that's part of this conversation, but like came back to mind.
I don't know if it's easier to sneak a corpse out of the city, but I can make it seem like somebody's dead when they're not. I do think I have to be there to wake them back up, but no, it's... And she'll pull out her star map and put it on the ground. She's like, I think if you focus on the space in between these two, life and death, you can kind of make something in the middle.
I don't know how comfortable I think in that sentence when we're talking about life and death. But I think it's something we keep in our back pocket. Right, let's see if we can't talk to Unifiers and get safe passage out. And if so, then there's nothing to worry about. But if we run into issues, then definitely think it's worth exploring, Mouse.
We have done a great service for the city, as of right now. So maybe they'll acknowledge that.
While we're talking about whether or not vampires can breathe, Drada, you're like the only normal-sized one of us. Can you try to climb in this bag?
Happily. And Drada climb. Oh, no,
I'm just mostly curious to see if Drada can fit.
And also, Drada's like, I need to breathe. I'm not what are you insinuating right now?
We'll let you out. There's like 10 minutes worth of air in there.
There's time. Okay, cool.
Should make sure that's true.
I was like, what the fuck are you levying against me right now?
Clax just shakes his head and starts like checking out the door for how sturdy it is and seeing if there's a spot where you can take a watch.
I'm reluctant to set precedent. I will say that Clax would definitely never fit in the bag. Drada and those Clax, I should say Clax and Aesop would definitely never fit in the bag.
Right.
Broad-shouldered people like dwarves, aka Umber, probably would not fit in the bag. Lithe or otherwise small people could fit in the bag. It would take some work. It wouldn't just be like stepping into a hole, and it would take more than like an action. It would kind of be like a minute of squeezing and maneuvering. Just for the record. Feel free
We
to...
had to. Well, where does Jerome fall in that? I'm assuming he's kind of a normal-sized human.
Probably a little bit bigger than Drada. Perhaps that would work. I will say that, like... Go ahead and roll me an intelligence check. or yeah, just intelligence.
I tried to roll an initiative check, apparently.
Yeah, not that one.
Nope.
Okay, not too bad.
11 is good enough for me to just remind you that there's currently a customs process in place and that you are flagged differently than everybody else because of your bag of holding. You know that they want to check the bag on the way out.
comfy though. Like it feels great.
I also have a DM question.
Sure.
I can't see anything that says this wouldn't be true. But does Pass Without a Trace stack?
It does not, and it's not because of. So it's sort of like a D&D rule is that one person cannot be affected by two spells of the same name. So
Okay.
you couldn't double guidance or double bless somebody in the same way.
Good to know.
Plus 20 bonus would be pretty sick, though.
It would. It's why I asked.
I mean, I can make him invisible at night if he needed to. And aren't vampires really good at like climbing? Like, I could just make him invisible, and you could just climb up over the wall, and we meet him outside the city, or something.
Straight up, he can just walk up that wall.
But we can't leave the city right now, can't we? Can we?
Arguably, we can't, but Cassandra and Null can.
Got it.
So,
And they reconvene.
And if they
I mean,
can leave
also-
with a cart,
yeah.
How did I'm trying to remember back to when we first entered, and I made a perception check as to like how manned the walls were.
Yeah, at the
Are they
time,
manned pretty frequently? That would be less than a feasible option.
you know that there is currently coverage on the walls all around the city. I'm only saying this because Flint suggested it, but that would not necessarily be affected by invisibility, you know. They're looking for more like it's more of a mundane patrol in that sense.
It is not a short trip to Dusklight.
it's not.
It's like 27 days at least.
They-
Um,
If we got a caravan together, we need to get them supplies and
Yeah.
a month-long trip. I mean,
I will just mention on the map, just so you have this as an option, but you do know that there's a red square around Dusklight.
airshipping.
Yeah, it is an airship transit point. Who created this big thing?
I'm sorry, I think I got rid of it.
Oh, it's still on my screen. I'll figure it out.
I'm sorry.
So you do know that airships would be an option. Yeah, it's gone. Okay.
Okay. So they could go to Consonance and get an airship, or back to Vind and get an airship.
Consonance would be easier. A lot more traffic, bigger city.
Right. They can blend in a little bit more.
Yeah, plus do we even know if Finn gets airships from Dusklight on any kind of regular basis?
Should we ask Avendir if he does any deliveries to Dusklight?
Great idea.
That's fair.
I need to talk to him anyway. Are time zones a thing? I wouldn't know. My island's tiny. Never mind.
I tend to think that all of Ventus is mostly in the same time zone. It's not a very
Makes things
big
a little bit easier.
place. Yeah. It's also an island that you can walk across over the span of a few weeks, you know?
You don't want to wake him up.
I mean, you're gonna send him messages, aren't they always gonna be at night? I guess they could be early in the night.
Yeah, it's almost dawn. Like you guys have, in fact, you guys probably need to go to sleep soon.
He's a morning person.
I mean, if you take first watch and wait a couple more hours, and then send a message as it's just about to get light out. That's probably not so bad.
I can do that. I think maybe we should consolidate, though, and do 4 watches instead of 3, or whatever gets us the extra hour if we're going to bed this late.
It's fine with me.
I mean, we could do 5 watches and just all do solo ones.
That's not a bad idea. Just that way we get a little extra sleep because it's been a very, very long day at this point.
Let's do it.
All right. So you're all functionally doing like an hour and a half
Hour and
watch.
change,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah. Okay. Who's up first?
I think me, if the sun's gonna rise within an hour and a half.
Probably not. You're probably more like second watch.
I'll be second watch.
I'll go with first.
Okay. Go ahead and
Yes,
roll me a
sir.
perception check. And then unrelated to that entirely, Drada, if you could roll me a d20.
I was just about to ask if I could do that.
And I'm going to message you something else as well. Feel free to answer that on Discord really quick. Okay. If you could roll me another d20.
Normal things are happening here.
Yeah, just
Totally
Totally
normal.
normal rolls that don't affect anybody. Okay. For all intents and purposes, Clax, as you are, I would sort of describe it to say that. Is there anything in particular you're doing during your watch? I should ask.
Other than just keeping watch, making sure nothing's going on.
And where did people just is everybody just camped out of the front door? Or are people taking advantage of the indoor space that was made available to you?
I would probably be inside.
Probably. It sounds like it's probably cramped inside. I'd probably just sleep outside.
Mouse is outside.
Joe wants to be as close to them as he can, so he will be inside on the couch, covering up the hole.
I'd just be sitting at the front porch or door, whatever entranceway.
Okay. For all intents and purposes, you keep an eye out and don't find anything of concern.
Okay.
I lied. Apparently, sunset is right away, so we're actually going to pretend that you were second watch, and we're
All
going to
good.
pretend that Mouse was first watch. But Mouse, if you want to roll a perception check and then do as you will, as if it was the prior hour.
You betcha. Reversing time. And then basically whenever I think is the latest I can get away with it, but still be able to see the stars and be confident that I can pull it off, I will take out my star map and enter my star form to call down these lines of communication between the stars, and I will send a message to Avendir.
Okay. The way that your starry form works to create this communication, you are not there to see Avendir receive it, but it's sort of as this, but I will just describe it so that you know how it works for the receiver. Is that in the kind of minute that it takes for the sort of constellation to connect between you, the stars, and the stars to Avendir, he feels a warmth a warmth and a light that is hitting him that gives him a few seconds to wake up before you start speaking. And so they're sort of as the connection is sort of fully established, you just have the mental acknowledgement that there's an awake person on the other end of the line.
And I will say, Avendir, sorry it's early. Call us the Lost Stars for the tournament? Do you do deliveries to Dusklight via caravan or airship? We have 2 friends who need to get there.
There's sort of a pause, and the familiar voice comes in and says, quite early indeed. Left Stars. I will be sure to make a note of that. Thank you. We have runs all over. Just feel open to talking about it whenever you need to. And that ends the connection, if that's all you're doing for now.
Yeah, I already became a spider earlier, so I don't think I could message him back. I think that's
Had
all.
a short rest since then, but you do get wild shapes back on short rests.
Do I?
Is that not a Moon Druid thing, short rest project? I don't remember.
Think so? I guess that could be true because I have only played a Moon Druid.
2 per short rest.
Okay. Then you may feel free to do it again. And I don't think I included this in the ability, but if you're doing back-to-back, you don't have to do another minute-long channel. You just sort of continue the effect to send another message.
Didn't write out a second message. Okay. I will message him back and say... Two friends in Mistral in trouble. We can get them out of town. But if there's a caravan or ship they could meet with, that would help.
If you can roll me a persuasion check with advantage.
Oh no, that's not a good start.
Hey, at least we have advantage. See, there we go.
Better.
Just give me 1 second.
Maybe should have mentioned that they're vampires.
Maybe you should have. We'll see. You get a response that says, I will inform Captain Willow. Tell them to meet at the Azure Phoenix in Consonance. I am not using the ship during the tournament, so it'll keep Captain Willow busy, I suppose.
I send feels of great thanks, but have no more messages.
Okay.
I will inform Clax. I'll just let him know that I contacted Avendir and kind of what happened there. To play telephone through our watch cycle.
No, and I will relay it to whoever takes over the next watch, and hopefully it will pass on through.
Who's third watch? Okay.
What is?
I'm just going to skip perception checks, but if you just want to let me know what you're doing during your watch.
Just keeping an eye out and slowly working on this bag of holding, trying to figure out what our, next week looks like, and whether or not I'm going to have any time to work on this, or further time to work on this, really.
Okay. I imagine that because we talked about you get metal wire, some kind of crushed amethyst, and some other things, but the week will not just be sewing raw wire into cloth. You're going to have to like strip this wire into thread, and like it's a pretty busy process to even curate the materials you have into the materials you need, and then let alone getting to work on it. So you can do a little bit of work here and there.
Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just keeping watching, working on this bag.
Okay. Drada or Flint to round us out.
You.
Anything in particular you're up to as the sun has already risen?
I think mostly just on that good roof, trying to keep an eye out. I think if he ever does feel secure that in a moment that no one's coming, Drada might start to pen a letter.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not the DM who's going to track how much paper you have, so feel free to do as you will. Ace up, anything that you'd like to do?
God, I'm trying to think. You know what? I might. Funny that Drada mentioned that. I think I will also draft a letter on my little watch.
Okay.
But I probably get like one sentence in, and the rest of the time it's just like pen hitting the forehead, like figuring out what next word to write down, struggling to figure out what to say.
Okay. We will take a break before everybody wakes up and decides what to do with your day / maybe downtime. We'll see. So we will be back in about 5 or so minutes.
Sounds good.
Everyone.
Okay, so the morning comes. You are all awake. One thing I forgot to mention, but that I assume nobody really interacted with. At some point in the middle of the night, the one guy who got knocked unconscious just sort of like scrambled up and ran away. You know, I'll say that it probably was first or second watch when that happened, because you don't really stay unconscious too long when dealt non-lethal damage. So
Maybe remind him to go tell Diana that he's still alive.
I think my feeling is that they got up and didn't seek answers. They just got out of Dodge. There was no room for conversation.
Fair.
But you guys wake up. The morning is yours. What would you like to do?
Long rest, just to confirm.
Yes,
Not that I
you
think
may.
it matters.
Yeah,
But
complete your long rest. Feel free.
Matters for me.
Long rest. Yes.
Guess I better start preparing disguise self.
You never know.
You never know.
Oh.
I'm doing that during a break.
Do we got a group going to the Unifiers and a group going to the stables to try to secure a caravan, or are we all going to the Unifiers to see if they'll cough up the caravan?
I think it's worth deciding if we are staying in town for the week, or if we are trying to get blessing to leave town early.
I partially out of pure spite. More that there's a certain pen that should be acquired. Also what the Unifier said, but more the pen than anything.
I feel like it has to take more time, doesn't it, DM? Isn't there like a few more days left?
Yes, it is 5 more days.
Okay.
Or, sorry, 4 more days.
I believe he's mentioned being able to like make deliveries. So if we left town early, we would probably just need to let him know. But I don't know how much that delays getting the pen.
so are we looking to just get permission to let them pass, or are we looking to get out of town ourselves?
I think that's the big question, is if we're trying to leave ourselves today, this might be like a full party, like split up, go knock out a bunch of things. If we're just trying to get a caravan and get them out of town, I think there's less things to do.
The latter, because then we stay in the Unifier's good graces, show goodwill, we get the pen. Also, if we have to have the pen delivered, where are we going to be? You know, and then how much longer is that going to take to get there?
And if it means that, don't mean to speak for you, Mouse, but if it means that we have to stay locked up a little bit and not make as many public appearances, that's more than fine with me.
I think it's fine for us to stay the week, especially if we can convince now to help get Jerome and Cassandra out of town. I think that has to be our first priority. Talking to Avendir last night, it sounds like if we can get them to consonance, he can maybe lend his airship to get them back to Dusklight. That does sound like a very expensive ask, but he didn't say no when he heard they were our friends. So that's an option. I think Drada and I should maybe keep to the shadows and maybe not do a lot of public appearances. But I think as long as we aren't causing any trouble, I don't think they're going to actively come after us.
What Mouse said.
Okay. Then I think the main things on our list are talk to the unifiers, which is, even then, I'm not dead certain if we have to. Get a caravan organized for them, let Null know, or make sure that Null's on board with escorting them, and maybe try and get some supplies. If it's like 7-ish days to Consonance, I don't know how long it is from Consonance by airship to Dusklight, but probably not a bad idea to get them like 2 weeks worth of rations at least.
Right. Except you might have it on the road too.
If Drada and Clax could roll a wisdom check, just for something that is on my mind.
Oh, that was close to natural 20.
Continue.
Great.
I will say, what I'll say is, and it's just for Drada, is like something a little wrong with the plan of they'll just leave and there'll be no problems, but you just can't place your tongue on it. At least not with DM support.
Okay, so there are potential problems. And they leave. And let me clarify. Jerome's problem, can Jerome go outside at night? Is that a problem for him, or he just can't be outside?
I mean, he went to the bar at some point, so he must be able to.
Yeah, sorry, was that a DM question? Or
I just want to make sure I'm understanding how that works.
the implication from what Cassandra suggested was that going outside would cause burning skin and such.
Regardless of time of day?
Yeah, sorry, during the day.
Okay.
And I would say, because explicitly, as you guys are sort of like having this conversation in their living room, you would have been warned to not open the cellar, because even the light that comes in through the windows would bounce around in the house and cause problems.
Yeah, so here's a potential problem that comes to mind. That there's no such thing as an underground on an airship. Unless he found some deep, or I guess he could find some hole deep in the ship. I don't think.
Avendir's ship did have multiple decks.
Okay.
Yeah, Avendir had a pretty big.
I mean, is the problem then getting him into Consonance?
Well, all right.
There's going to be guards posted that are going to want to check them as they leave, and I believe those guards are part of the brass spear.
That's what I was hinting at.
Oh,
yeah.
So we were already going to have to tackle that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think we can invisibility Jerome, and he can climb over the wall. I'm not clear on how grumpy they might be with Cassandra, and if they would recognize her or not.
Part of me hopes that if she's just Tiefling, coming and going as she pleases. She's not if she's not carrying any vials or anything that might read as uber suspicious.
How?
Also, I was going to ask, does anyone have a disguise kit that we could possibly help in that regard? My spell only works on myself, unfortunately.
Can anybody else cast invisibility?
I do have a disguise kit.
That would be a no on my end.
Not proficient in at all, but
I prepped feign death, so she could be a corpse that Nala's taking back to her family. I don't know if Cassandra's from around here. I took charm person, enlarge reduce, and enhance ability. I thought perhaps those were things that could help us, but I don't have anything that can, make her look different. I don't think we want to enlarge her, but we could reduce her.
So I can levitate her over the wall. If we needed to get her over the wall, she would just be very visible
we put
while
her
it's
in
happening.
full face paint Make her small and levitate her over the wall.
I say we talk to the Unifiers, let them know we're getting some people out of town. We are not leaving with them, and that there may be problems because of these racist pigs that are the brass spears. And if there's problems, we're going to deal with it, but we want to make sure they're aware of it heads up, first. That way, it's not an issue later, and then we get them out of the town.
I like that idea.
That sounds great.
I think when we have that conversation with the Unifiers, we should maybe start by just trying to feel them out about their feelings towards vampires. And not just lead with, we're getting some vampires out of town.
At the DM, from my time in Consonance and just seeing the Unifiers and their reputation, is it one of those organizations that's fair and just top to bottom? Is there any perceived bias because they're supporting the nobles and the elite? Like,
You can roll a history check if you would like.
I don't think
Can I make the case? Can I make the case for me to make one as well? Maybe I don't need to now, but
Yeah, I would say no,
okay.
except just because this is a guard thing.
Yeah. Okay.
With the natural 20, I will say that you know this. You did not have interactions with them. They don't really go outside of the citadel around the castle. So, or if they do, they're out of uniform. So it's sort of hard to track down who might be off-duty Unifiers outside, out and about in the city, because they're sort of like not supposed to reveal that. What I would say among gossip among guards is that they are very sort of by the letter to the king's requests, and you would only really read that to say in this situation that they came here to end the Thieves' War Guild, and they kind of got stretched in trying to hold the city together and keeping it from collapsing with all of the drama afoot, which is why you guys were sort of recruited to help out with this, because they didn't have the manpower to sort of actually solve the problem. They only had the manpower to keep the city from imploding. And so, and this sort of resonates with you when you think about it as well, that when the blood vials outside of the city were discovered, they sort of said, like, not our problem, which doesn't take a side in the current conflict, other than that they are neutral at minimum at the moment. Clearly by it not being their problem, that signals to you that they're not here to prejudice vampires at minimum, and that therefore their mission is not connected to anything that would go against you.
And there's no known edicts or anything like that from the king. The king hasn't said, like, vampires are bad people, we must treat them as such, or anything like that. There's the
current political environment is that the king is trying to maintain neutrality as far as the average person knows, and this is not something I'm giving you from the natural 20. This is just sort of like a reminder from, I think, session 0, is that the king is sort of just as far as public facing appearances are concerned, that they are against prejudice, but not necessarily acting to fix anything.
From non-public facing appearances, would I think that is different for any reason?
You can roll a history check. I know why you're asking. I mean, so I don't know how much you're willing for me to reveal in front of everybody. So you tell me, do you want me to message you?
Sure.
Okay. Continue the conversation then, and I'll send you something really quick.
So what I think is we go have the conversation with the unifiers to make sure that we're not going to cause any undue hardship for them. Let them know about our situation. To Flint's point, he said we don't necessarily have to reveal all the information, but we just need to, lay out what's going on. There's some people who are being harassed by the brass spears, on rightfully so, and so we're going to get them out of town. We're going to, and hopefully it will de-escalate the last of the situations you're having in town. Between the Thieves Guild now backing off and hopefully now getting out the protagonist or a protagonist for some of the issues that we're having, get them out of town. But we want to make sure if things get ugly, we are going to defend ourselves. Similar to what you came across when we first came to town. We're not going to do anything that we don't need to do, but that's going to take place. And in addition, we are still not leaving town. We're just getting people out, and we will remain in town. And if they need some kind of deposit, I say we can give them the gold back to hold. That's a king's ransom they gave us, and if we're willing to give that up to prove that we're staying around, if need be, we give some kind of assurance along those lines.
I just think if we're not planning to leave ourselves, we're not violating anything as far as they're concerned. And from what you were kind of saying, it's not their problem. They're going to just do to the letter of the law. I don't think they're going to help us.
No.
And at worst, they might have a problem with it or something. I'm trying to think through what I think the benefit of letting them know is if we're not leaving town.
I think the problem is if a scuffle goes down at the gates and we're at the gates fighting brass spears, the perception would be really bad.
Oh,
right?
We should try to avoid that.
That's what I'm saying is if push comes to shove, because rather than trying to do all these sneaky things, and maybe it's as simple as we just tell the brass spears, fine, you win, we're leaving town. Maybe that's as simple as it is, and they're going to let Cassandra and Jerome walk right out, and there won't be a problem.
What if now takes the cart out, and we sneak Jerome and Cassandra out?
Do you think
Jerome's easy. We can just invisibility him and he'll climb over the wall. Cassandra's a little trickier because I can't invisibility and levitate her.
We just sent her with Null and the cart out?
Maybe. The brass spears certainly seem to have less of a problem with her, but
just have her going out with Null as an escort as long as Null takes the job. Have her there take the cart, drive out, and if she gets stopped, we can stay within viewing distance. That way if anything goes down, we can support. But then just, I'm done with this town. I've given up. I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. Out you go. You do your flint magic.
You could even ask her to say something along the lines of Jerome and I are I can't deal with this anymore. I've left Jerome. I'm on my own. Just to try to disassociate herself as far from the vampire problem she can.
Yeah.
So then, no unifiers for now. Try that plan, and then we'll go from there.
I think so. I don't know that I just struggle to think that the unifiers are going to help us here. The more we talk
about it. It was more preemptive. It wasn't necessarily for help. I didn't expect assistance. It was more, if shit goes south, I don't want to be, you guys again. This is starting to be a trend.
The only reason I could see for going to chat with the unifiers, and I do not say this to drag on this conversation further, is just that wasn't what happened last night. As at least in my book, as someone who doesn't practice the law, unprovoked and pretty illegal. That's personally threatening someone and going to burn down a house. More as in a, hey, by the way, this happened. You need to perhaps check some power here.
Maybe
that
we
like
do that.
Conversation.
Maybe we have that conversation after we get them out of town.
I'm good with that, because I just also have a feeling they're going to say it's not their jurisdiction. The problems seem to be coming to an end. I imagine they want to get back to home. But I like the idea. Let's see about getting Cassandra out and then get Drone out nighttime. We need to have the conversation with Null and get supplies.
Other potential option I'll throw on the table if we think it's useful is I'm working on making a new bag of holding. I could give them my infused bag of holding to take with them that Jerome can potentially get inside of if need be. It's not going to be comfortable or easy, but is an option.
It would still get searched though, right?
It would. It wouldn't get them out of the gate, but if the cart's not good enough in the daytime to keep him out of the sun, or they need it to get onto the airship or something, or I don't know. They're also not flagged, so maybe they'll get searched a little less. It means we won't have a bag of holding for the next week or two while I build the other one, but after 2-ish weeks, I can just infuse something else, and they just won't have a bag of holding for themselves anymore. It'll just stop working. But I don't know if that's worth doing. Kind of fringe whether it would end up helping them or not.
I think we need to figure out if the cart works first.
I'd agree.
Okay.
Love a bag backup.
All right,
Let's do this shit, y'all.
go get a cart.
Wow! Hi!
So just if somebody could summarize sort of the course of actions in the immediate term. It sound or just confirm what I'm hearing. You're going to probably simultaneously check in with Nal / secure a cart. And then the goal is that if Nal agrees and if the cart is booked, then you're going to do what? You're going to do the invisible climb over the walls / Nal escorts Cassandra through the gates plan?
Yeah, I think now Cassandra would leave like during the day and then park somewhere on the road a couple miles away or something like that, make camp, and then at night we'll invisibility Jerome and he'll catch up with them.
Okay.
Yep, and then, so I don't know if Drada, do you want to talk to Cassandra and Jerome, or yell down, or tap and see if you can get their attention, fill them in on what we're planning to make sure they don't have any objections before we leave?
I imagine Jerome may be asleep now, but
I'll check in.
And then we'll just need some kind of covering if we can't get a covered wagon, and even if it's covered, we're still going to need additional layers. So, not to be morbid and stereotypical, but do we want to go to the Undertaker and get a box made?
Coffin might send up some red flags going,
Box,
great. Great. Okay.
Great, sounds great. Throw a blanket in there, it'll be so comfy.
Probably not. Just to be clear, not comfortable at all.
No.
Okay, so I want to expedite some of this because you don't need to role play conversations with the stable house and such. So you would be trying to rent a wagon that would be dropped off in Consonance, along with the horses necessary to carry that wagon. They tell you that assuming that that's the only route and that it's going to be returned within is it like 7 days or 10 days to get to Consonance, I forget. But they say that will cost 30 gold. And this would be a covered wagon with, and you can, if you want to tack another gold on there, we'll say 31 gold just to get like an extra tarp or two. You talk to Nal, you propose, like, you say, like, did you think about what we talked about last night? And I assume that you probably relay that it's not just a wagon's ride all the way to Dustlight, but that you have an airship taking you part of the way.
As well as what the cargo is.
Oh, you tell her everything?
I'm all for it. Because she's going to find out real quick. So, unless anybody has any objections.
Okay. We'll zoom into that conversation for a moment, and she will ask, what kind of danger are you expecting?
Well, hopefully nothing. Because once we're beyond the town, hopefully it will just be smooth traveling. But it's more of a just in case. Because Cassandra by herself, I don't think, if anything were to happen during the day, can really do anything. And so it's just more of a cautionary tale. Once you get more than a couple miles outside of town, I don't foresee any issues.
Well, there are other mercenaries that could serve as extra muscle if you want. I could try to recruit some folks, but if you just want me to do it alone,
whatever you're more comfortable with.
Well, if you say it's pretty smooth sailing, then I suppose I should be fine.
I don't foresee any. Again, making the assumption that the road to continents from Mistral is pretty
there's
well
no,
traveled.
Yeah, there's no civilization along the way. There's no, there's no like cataclysm that has happened on that road that you're aware of.
Yeah,
maybe the occasional bandits, but nothing that would be sort of out of the ordinary. And Nal seems pretty on top of things. She says, and then I'm in Dusklight, or am I coming back?
So in theory, we don't have a need for you to come back. We don't necessarily need you to go all the way to Dusklight, as long as you got onto Continents and onto the airship.
But if you Phoenix, or the ship's the
want, yeah. If you want to go to Dusklight, it didn't sound like there was a shortage of spaces on the airship.
Well, the question I'm asking you is, if you're trying to protect these people, don't you want to see them resting comfortably in a bed in a safe space, not just being flown away on an airship? Like, if if we see each other again, I want to be able to tell you that they're safe and secure, not that I saw them fly away.
Well, Mouse, you can always talk to them too and get updates, correct?
I can. I am sort of on team, let's get them all the way there.
What would the cost difference be?
She sort of does some mental math and says, well, ideally I don't live out all my days in Dusklight and I can come back to Consonance or something. So if they're going to give me a round trip for free and I don't have to worry about all that, then I'll stick on them for 60 gold.
That seems reasonable to me. I mean,
yeah, it's a pretty long distance.
I can pay for that.
And then, Mouse, do you mind just next time you talk to Avendir, just let them know when the ship returns from Dusklight. They'll be bringing one back. Just that way we know for certain. That way it's not a surprise like, hey! Okay.
I did tell him 2 were coming, but I don't think a 3rd will be a problem.
Doesn't sound like he was actively using the ship, really. So we may want to let Avendir know it's a vampire. But I'd ask forgiveness and permission.
Forgiveness
Said it
isn't
was
a
a-
word. It's just permission.
I said it was a friend who needed help.
Right.
People.
Well,
People asking for passage. And that feels like enough to me.
all right. Well, and now sort of speaks up and says, "Well, just come grab me when you're ready. I have all my stuff already."
All right.
And for all intents and purposes, unless there's anything else you want to do immediately, you are welcome to fast forward to the evening where my game crashes.
Favorite part of the evening.
Yeah, my favorite part. You're welcome to fast forward and enact your plan. Is there anything anybody wants to do between now and then?
I might try and forge up some like receipts for now for why they've got some extra gold. And the wagon should be fine. But just maybe some receipts that like account for now making some money.
Okay. And it doesn't have to be forged. You can just say like paying for service, like Flint is paying now for services.
Fair.
Yeah, and you were provided with a receipt for the wagon and all that as well. So everything seems to be on the up and up.
Right.
For all intents and purposes, I personally believe that the plan would go off without a hitch.
Oh wow.
There is sort of so I don't want to remove people's opportunity to engage with this, but it's sort of as kind of like recapping the events that happened. You guys meet up with Jerome and Cassandra, and they sort of are solemnly packed up with a variety of bags and odds and ends. I kind of imagine that you bring the wagon to their house.
Did we need to separately acquire like a big crate or box or something that would fit?
No, you don't feel like that's necessary for the daylight sensitivity.
Okay.
And you make your way to the front of the gate. But if there's anything you want to talk about with them before you actually send them off, there's sort of like a wagon's ride and a sort of departure at the gate that you have plenty of time to have any closing words with them.
I don't think I've ever said two words to either one of them, so.
I'm
Oh, you
also
really
dead.
haven't.
You get a respectful nod as a like the sort of like you're part of that crew nod.
At some point, I think Drado would Cassandra or Jerome aside, just like, hey, airship you're going on. Just kind of fully explain and be like, Avendir seems chill. If there's a problem, trust you'll be able to work it out. And I don't know. I hope this helps too and offers another just like 10 gold just for the journey.
Jerome takes it and sort of nods and says, I said that I owe you one and you dismissed it, but I do. If we meet again, I would like to pay this back. I don't really know what to expect in Dusklight, but well, like you said, it can't be worse than here.
I was just gonna say, expect it to be better than this.
I will go up to Now and say, hey, so when you get on the Azure Phoenix and Continents, we met Captain Willow, and there's a small chance that they're not super excited about this trip. I'm hoping this can make them a little bit more fun to share an airship with. And I will give her 25 gold to give to Willow.
Now just sort of takes it and says, sure, I don't...
You'll be fine. They're totally capable. Just a little grumpy.
She sort of takes the 25 gold, and there's sort of the recognition that she has that you might not, that like this is a pretty handsome tip for a pilot, and she's just like, all right.
What is money?
Yeah.
How much do airships cost? Mine costs 800 gold, so
800 gold to fix. She's like, all right. Thanks.
I'm now realizing that Mouse doesn't realize that she's got more money than most people will see in a lifetime.
And barring any other sort of conversations, final call. Jerome is made invisible. You assume that he reaches the other side. And Nal is sent forward through customs. You watch from the distance and see, while I've already told you that it's successful, there's still sort of a tension in the air of like, oh god, like what if, or is something going to go wrong? Like, it probably also occurs to you that, if that wagon doesn't get across, then Jerome doesn't have shelter. But eventually, after just like kind of 10 minutes of questioning, looking at paperwork, they are waved out of the city, and you have confidence that that they shouldn't have much difficulty linking back up.
Cool. Job done.
How smooth.
even so, I know we're not there yet, but I will, right before daybreak, message now, just to make sure that everything went okay. And confirm that they all met back up on the other side.
For the sake of expediency, you get a confirmation. Nal is sleeping outside on some tent, in a tent while the wagon is sort of sealed. But that sort of concludes the immediate pressing issue. The matter of downtime. Of course, you are welcome to continue. If you want to spend your downtime seeking out the unifiers or sort of escalating things with the brass spears, then do let me know. But it sounded like that both Mouse and Drata were going to lay low for a little while. And that doesn't mean that you can't do things, just that I expect you'll be in your rooms doing it or else or otherwise. So I guess I would just like to ask well, maybe you should have a hearty discussion before we sort of begin any kind of downtime montage. Like, is there anything you guys want to talk about as a group before the week sort of unfolds? In case you do want to pivot in any direction that might instigate things.
I was just going to say, if I leave this here tavern at any point in the next week, it will be under the cover of darkness or with the disguise self spell on. I just wanted to be very forthcoming about that.
Do we need to do a prison break anymore? I forgot where that storyline ended.
In theory, I think the unifiers were gonna get them released,
Okay.
or so. I think the unifiers were going to get them released, and we thought it was going to be
That
okay.
might escalate. That might escalate things further after everything that has happened so far.
That's fair. We can keep an ear to the ground and try and see if we find out if Umber gets released or not.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't show any of our faces back there.
Yeah. Although now the prospect of Mouse breaking in and breaking Umber out of jail seems even funnier.
Mouse, I'd fully support you.
At some point, I'm imagining this conversation happening over breakfast the next day. Dantavius is sort of there serving you all, and sort of just comes up to the table and says, don't mean to be rude, but how long do you plan on staying?
I think just through the week. The Unifiers kind of said we can't leave town for another 5 days.
Did you get on their bad side?
No, they just wanted
No.
to fact check our story.
Okay.
Cleared up some stuff with the Thieves Guilds, but
Oh, did you get the cask back?
we did,
Oh,
which I think we should still take with us. But yes, we do have it.
do you mind if I just confirm?
Sure, I will produce the cask.
Okay. He takes it and says, well, seems right. If you don't mind, just for Avendir's sake, I might just go polish it off, clean it up, have it be presentable as it normally is. You sort of look at it, and it is like a little dusty and whatnot. It's not damaged, but
Certainly.
cool. He takes it to the back room where he had initially showed you that it had been stolen, and you just hear the sounds of running water and such. Eventually, he brings it back out and says, well, this relieves some of my concerns, so please feel free. Stay as long as you like. Well, throughout the end of the week.
Much appreciated.
Because you did seem to know them, it's, I would feel like we should let you know that we did help Jerome and Cassandra get out of town. There was some escalations beyond just what happened here in your bar that made it clear they were not welcome in town anymore.
Okay. Good to know. Okay. He nods, and you guys are left to continue your group conversation. Unless,
I guess I wouldn't be surprised if the breast spears might escalate something with the unifiers. Do you think they would go that far?
I don't think so. But
Hesitate to think so. Her name is Diana, it's not Karen.
The new Karen.
yeah, I can't imagine they'd be quite that stupid.
I am really
Hey,
looking forward to
if-
getting out of here.
Me too. Listen, if she wants to get herself killed, have fun. I'm not gonna be the one to do it. Have fun.
all right. Unless there's anything else, we we'll begin a week of downtime. Of course, if anything happens that would interrupt your week of downtime, I will let you know. But what would you guys? Who would like to start, perhaps? In sort of what you're aiming to do over the course of a week.
You mentioned before, mine's pretty straightforward. Just get back into a training regimen, exercises, going through katas, going through drills, just kind of really taking some time to kind of work on some stuff and, take care of the physical and mental aspect of fighting a little bit. And that's it. Because again, with the supply shortage, not really going to try and buy stuff at exorbitant prices right now. So, since unifiers are here and blocking up that aspect. And other than that, just kind of keep an eye out if anything from brass spears come along. Like, just kind of track patterns and movements of people coming and going, see if there's anything suspicious that they're doing. But other than that, just train and practice.
Okay. And it's all pretty straightforward. What about anybody else?
So I think Mouse's plan to buy a diamond was gonna take some around towning, which is no longer in the cards for her. But I think Mouse, coming from how she was raised and where she grew up, would be very interested in spending some time in the local fauna. And I know we're in the city, but it's not super densely packed everywhere, so she would be kind of in any wooded areas, just kind of examining and studying how things are naturally different here, and trying to gain some additional knowledge in those areas. Not that I think that that's going to amount to anything in a week. That's something she wants to work towards long term.
If you would like to roll me a nature check, just sort of as you're spending time in the wooded areas of this town. Okay. Wait. You have a -1 in nature? Oh, it's intelligence. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
For some reason I thought it was wisdom. But
Well, and
okay.
she's not trained in it, which does make sense because new continent. But kind of what I was hoping to long-term rectify.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I would say just spending a little bit more time around nature if during the course of between now and the next session you want to find another sort of wild animal shape that you sort of come across that might be useful to unlock. You may nothing that wouldn't be in a city, so not a cave bear or something, but yeah, you can go ahead and do that. The only other thing I'll sort of say is, well, I would ask you the question of, this is a new continent for you, but it's not the first place you've been to. When you were working on, when you were working in Vind, you probably visited some other places. But is it correct that you just didn't really? You probably spent most of your time on the ships. You didn't really go exploring too much.
You're muted.
I think that's probably true. I think she's always interested in how things are different and always trying to explore new things, but probably hasn't had when she was off ship, it was probably somewhere for a day. She hasn't had time to really explore the way she would like to.
Okay. With the 16, I'll just give you a little bit of something else then, is that, and you don't have a way to diagnose this with a 16, but the trees back home tend to when the sun goes down, the trees tend to still be a little bit brighter than they are here. I don't want to say that they're glowing, that the trees glow back home, but they are something that just sort of strikes you here is that when it's dark here, it can be like pitch black. Whereas the trees back home, it was almost as if you could always rely on being able to navigate through the sort of ambient light that would come off the trees. And that just strikes you as odd, but you don't really know what that means.
That's really cool.
I would say it's no different than like a full moon. It's not like bright, but it is just it's not pitch black.
The anti-Drata island.
I would hate that a lot. Mouse, I hate your homeland. Just no.
Who would like to go next?
I'll go next. I just have a few things. If there's a library here, I would love to explore such things. Just we have not talked about it.
Explore what such things?
I would like to research more into the topics of primordials, elementals, specifically on the name Neptus. See if there is a longer name for such name, noun. Just trying to gain more information on that, and we'll start there.
Okay. All right. How much time are you willing to dedicate to this?
Well, if we have a week, I'll do a day.
Okay. Well, so sorry, I'm just asking, are you looking to do this like one day at a time, or are you looking like if I give you something on day one, are you going to go back? Perhaps we can just get some of the other things out of the way first, and then you spend the remainder of your time on that.
Okay, yes. The other thing I wanted to do, which will probably take half a day, just to even get to the post office, is to send a message out to my parents and tell them basically the same information I sent in my previous letter, which I sent to you over Discord. Just less detailed, and just, hey, tournament's happening. Would be great if you guys came. It's on these dates. Miss you, love you, sort of stuff.
Okay.
And then I'll detract the gold amount that is needed for that now.
Yeah, I think I had described it as like a gold a day. So that would be 6 gold to get a message all the way to Consonance.
Okay. Subtracted that.
And you can feel free to provide a specific note if you'd like, but otherwise I get the gist, so you don't have to write it.
I think this one's far less detailed how the other one I wanted to be, so I think I'm good with just that description. And then, other than that, wait for my pen to be finished and pick that up. So whichever one you want me to go through first, the research or the pen.
We can do this out of order. So after several days, you approach the giant tree that Zazazius is in, and he sort of welcomes you as you step into the like magically air-conditioned tent and says, very timely indeed. I've just finished up your new friend.
Oh, hello. Yeah, that'd be great. May I see hold?
Of course. And he pulls out a kind of heavy wooden box that is sort of like made of like polished oak, and sort of has what it has like kind of a big Z on it.
Mhm.
Sort of what you sort of take from that is, and based on sort of like the symbols that are sort of like embroidered on the side of the tent, is it's sort of like his logo, for lack of a better word.
Right, his brand.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, but it nonetheless is sort of a label of his making. And he shows you a pen that I will just share the. First, I'll just share you the art of the pen.
Oh yes, please.
Decided to be that person.
Of course.
So you look at it, and as you sort of hold it, it seems that there are patterns that have sort of like these swirling patterns that have been painted into the fibers of the feather, and as well the kind of sinew that makes up like the stem. I don't really know feather terminology, but the sort of like stem that's coming through it and the point that it comes to seems to now be like a heavy ivory. Like it's sort of changed material almost.
Before he goes deeper into the description of the pen, I will ask, is it possible for you to talk about the kind of soul that you were able to get for this pen?
Well, her name is Calliope. She... Well, I searched for what you asked. I was looking for somebody who I felt would be a good fit for you, somebody who would be able to support you in this tournament you talked about, perhaps cheer you on, and somebody who could maybe just be a source of inspiration, and through that effort, Calliope came to me, and I think she's just the right fit for you.
May I? I'll hold out my hand for the pen.
Sure. I will add it to your inventory.
Ooh, exciting.
This will not be on D&D Beyond, and we'll figure that out when you level up, but
Right.
I will say, as soon as it enters your inventory, you are immediately attuned to it, which sort of just renders with like a warmth that hits you. It should be in your inventory right now.
Yeah, I see it. Oh, this is very interesting. DM, will you allow me to read it out loud so everyone else knows what it does? Okay. So this is just word for word. So one of its attributes is labeled cheerleader. When you make a charisma performance check or roll a saving throw against being frightened, you can expend one use of your bardic inspiration to roll the die and add the number to your roll, which is super helpful. And then the second ability is Muse. As an action, you may enter a trance for 10 minutes as if casting the Legend Lore spell. As part of casting the spell, you must burn incense worth at least 150 gold, which the spell consumes. Once Calliope has been used to cast the spell, it can't be used to cast that spell again until the next dawn.
And so Legend Lore normally costs 250 gold to use, and it requires ivory. But the components
the ivory
of this,
is part of the pen.
The ivory is part of the pen, and the pen is a little bit more efficient in its incense use, so it costs less to do that.
I'm just like kind of, as I'm listening to Zazius describe what this pen does, I'm just kind of like in complete shock as this pen is just sitting in my hands. Like I'm listening, understanding, but my focus is on the pen, just kind of looking at it, looking at all the swirling patterns on it, and just without breaking contact to the pen, just being like, thank you so much for finding her.
Of course. I hope you two have a joyous life together.
Out of curiosity, is his brand somewhere on the pen?
No.
Okay.
It's just the
That'd be
box.
funny. Okay, that'd be funny.
And the box is not it's a presentation for
Right.
like it's a packaging. It's not important.
Right.
For some reason in my head, I was mixing up legend lore with contact other plane. I was thinking you gave him a pen that would potentially make him go insane.
No.
Two different things.
Yeah. So I mean, you have access to a expensive to cast level 5 divination spell.
Yes.
That could be super useful.
Yes.
Yeah, I will, just to set expectations, like the normal legend lore can be like a Google search that, depending on how much you know about something, you can really highly refine it and get some really specific information out of this. I tend to think that this pen, the way that I will be phrasing any sort of uses out of it, it is anything that is phrased out of it will be meant to inspire you to write a story about it, which means that
Okay.
it might not be like totally complete, like, omnipotent information.
Right. It might just be like the synopsis of like an historical event or something,
Yeah.
or like of an item. Okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you have to use it to research stories that you want to write. You could still use it just for learning,
Right.
but it just may be a little bit more vague than the average legend lore.
Right. I guess then I'll spend the rest of my time researching if there is a local library.
Sure. If you'd like to roll an investigation check with advantage, just because you're spending multiple days on it.
Good thing I have advantage on that. Maybe not, but at least it's a 10.
Is there any one specific thing that you want to learn? Because you are still spending days.
The thing I keep getting from diving deep into Neptus's conscious or being is that there is something else to the name that I need to think of, remember, know of. So just kind of, I think that would be the main information I'm trying to get from. Just if there is more to the name that I need to know.
The answer I would give you for this particular thing is not the answer that it's not an answer to the question, but more of a direction.
Okay.
And what you're sort of able to glean, and I'm going to, it looks like I'm bringing you to the Ventus map. What you sort of glean is that here there is a where does water come from on a floating island? It comes from these sort of geysers that become waterfalls, and then the water runs off of the island and into the winds, the sky below, just sort of never to be seen again. This water source seems endless. And it's often sort of posited that the water, that some of these waterfalls, of which there are more than one, that they are kind of gateways to, or that they might be gateways to the elemental plane of water, which is sort of giving you a source where perhaps were you to want to take the direct route to sort of ask questions, that might be a direction you could go, or at least there might be something over there that perhaps locals who live by the waterfall or something that this area in particular which doesn't have a name. It's sort of referred to as the waterfalls north of Propitious, which is the sort of town here. That there are individuals there who are researching the waterfall and sort of have a more keen awareness of what the elementals from the plane of water sort of do here in Ventus, and like what their sort of purpose is and what their connection to this world is.
Continue.
I was just gonna, so it's sort of like this is one direction you could go. The other direction is there. You might just need to find a better library.
Right.
Trade City Library, gets rumors. It doesn't have like archival records. So
Right.
if you were to go to a bigger city, they might have something more.
I was going to ask, am I familiar with that area you pointed to on the map based on my family background? Have I ever been there? Do I know a little bit more about it?
Give me a history check.
Oh.
I'll give you advantage. It is your family. I'm not just trying to give you information, but I do want.
Okay.
I do want to be fair.
Oh,
Okay.
You're being fair.
Yeah. I will say that you wouldn't be surprised if your family knows something about it, but it's just off the top of your head, it doesn't occur to you.
Okay, it doesn't strike. Okay, doesn't strike me. Cool. And then I'd like to end my downtime with practicing my what I'm going to be presenting at the tournament at the oh god, what's the bar we've been? Something Lady, right? The bar we've been staying at.
The Guilty Lady, yeah.
The Guilty Lady. I'd like to practice my material at the Guilty Lady on my nights. Getting crowd feedback.
Are you looking for your party to be there too, or no?
Sure.
Is there anything you want to just describe about it without actually kind of reciting it?
So, I mentioned earlier last week about what I would be doing, I think, but essentially I'm going to be citing 2 poems that I created, and then with a haiku at the end, kind of summarizing everything up. So that's what I planned on as of right now to be my material for the tournament, at least round 1.
Okay. Well, we'll save that for what is likely to be next session, so that you don't have to spoil anything right away.
Right.
Go ahead and roll me just a performance check. Why not? Just to
Getting
see
crowd feedback.
Yeah.
Seeing if people like it or not. Maybe they don't.
Yeah, there's polite clapping. The impression you get is not that the content was bad, but that you're still practicing the delivery.
Okay. Cool beans.
Okay.
It's a lot of rolls, man. Other than that, I am finished. Thank you for your time.
Flint or Drada?
I think Flint had debated going to talk to the Unifiers or even going to talk to Jade Mask, and I think after all of the drama and whatever else early in the week, it's just nope, I'm just setting up shop and working on this bag, and is gonna try and knock out as much of this work as he can while still in town, potentially even risking a little bit of exhaustion, not to a dangerous point or anything, but yeah, pretty much just if you see Flint throughout the week, he looks a little tired and he's got a workbench set up in their rooms and is often either up there or taking up a table in the Guilty Lady, just working on this bag.
you have enough time between this and the road ahead that I'm not going to make you roll for exhaustion, because even if you get it, you will recover. But you will inevitably complete the bag. Do you want to describe anything about it?
I think it's probably a slightly nicer design than the infused one. He spent a bunch of time on it, and I think I'm sort of imagining, you see a bunch of these bags at like Ren Fair and stuff, so that's where my head's at lately. But something that like both has like a shoulder strap and like hooks to the like your belt, like giving it like sort of multiple points of contact, so it stays kind of close to his hip and is secure and easy to get in and out of. But yeah, like fine leather. Well, maybe not leather, because I guess it was on silk. So made of silk and canvas and whatever else. Maybe some leather detailing. And yeah, just a very I don't want to use the word tactical, because I feel like that implies modern day military gear, but very practical kind of bag.
And we sort of described what materials you needed to buy, but what does it look like to enchant it?
To enchant, obviously, like kind of as you mentioned, like a lot of refining of these materials, breaking down the was it amethyst? It was something purple.
Yeah, amethyst and just like metal thread. But is it like more about is the enchantment coming from magic you're throwing at it? Is it coming from like words you're saying? Is it coming from patterns that you're weaving into it?
I kind of imagine there's a certain amount of putting these wires and threads and things in particular runes and patterns throughout the kind of inside and maybe some on the outside of the bag, and then spending a decent amount of time just like infusing that with magic. I don't think there's in my head there's not a bunch of like verbal to it.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine. Well, I don't want to suggest that you have to spend spell slots to enchant a thing. I think it's sort of like you were connecting your inner power to this bag and sort of funneling energy into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sort of expect it's kind of tiring in a way, and he is funneling magic into this, and these different runes on the inside to give it some permanency.
Actually, in hindsight, I would say it generally probably would cost spell slots, similar to how like casting, like how you create a permanent teleportation circle requires you to cast teleportation circle on the same space over and over again. So,
makes sense.
But in this way, you're just sort of putting in vanilla spell slots into it over and over again. Drada, do you have things that you would like to accomplish in the dead of night?
No, I sure do, and they look really similar to a lot of the things Aesop wanted to accomplish. The first thing, I guess, similarly, I also have a letter. Because I have written, I'm happy to, I wrote it down, I'm happy to send it your way, read it here, I don't know.
That's up to you. You are cutting out a little bit though, so sorry. No, okay, you're good.
I will send you the text if that's the case.
Okay, you're no longer cutting out, so I think you're good. If you would like to
love that. Sure. Dear El Silrak and Emsa, hello, I hope this both finds you well.
I think we lost him again.
Thank you for connecting me with the Heroes Academy. I've been connected with a patron. My Wi-Fi is great, is I think what we're learning.
Do you want to copy paste it to me? I'll read it out if you want it to be read out.
It's fine. I will just send you the text.
Okay.
I write a letter to people named Elsarak and Emsa, and that's exciting. I also, I think, spend a lot of time at the library, again, disguising self to transit to and from the library, if possible. But I'm real curious, just given the anti-vampire sentiment we have sure discovered in this town, I'd be really interested to see if there's any written record of it, or like any gossip that has been recorded. If there's any history as to like when vampires first came to this town. I know it is a provincial library, so I don't expect much, and if it is, it might be on the gossipier side of things, or more informal history. But I'd like to spend some time trying to suss out how this town got to be the way it is today.
Are you posting the letter?
As in sending it?
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you tell me what this means to you, but you are told that it will cost you 75 gold.
That's fine.
Okay.
75 gold, you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
So go ahead and deduct that from
do.
And then, so you're just kind of doing library research, as it sounded like?
Again, my hopes aren't high. I also don't think Rod is certain, but I don't know if library searching is his specialty by any means. Originally, he was just going to go talk to people, but that doesn't seem feasible at this point. So books it is.
One issue that you will run into is that the if you're trying to only be awake when it's dark out, it's how late are the libraries open? So you're going to have
I'm happy to travel during the day.
Okay.
I'm happy to be traveling during the day, disguising self as long as I can, depending how long that travel time would be, and if not, just split up.
Okay. So I'll let you roll investigation without advantage, just because you have to take precautions to sort of be out and about. So you do lose some time in that effort. Okay.
I'll take it.
And could you restate the sort of request that you have?
I think, given just how much anti-vampire sentiment is here, Drado's surprised by that. So, trying to look into if there's any history in either, because it's a merchant town, like the cost and sale of blood, or just any gossip going around about vampires. If there's any recorded history of that, trying to, knowing that it's a smaller town, maybe trying to go a more informal route. I think that's where Drado would start.
So, let me actually pull up my little document about some of this. Sorry, I'm not as prepared as I wanted to be. Okay. So, with the 19, I say this under the sort of, that anything written down here is sort of subject to the opinions of locals who probably wrote it, the perspectives of people who were vocal and left complaints, and whose sort of like stories became public record, and sort of served as, this is less like the library and more like the record, the probably more like the town hall records, records board. And the sense that you get is that you had heard some things vaguely from sort of bigots who were just shouting it, is that like there was fear over how vampires could sort of abuse their powers, specifically like through the use of like charm magic to sort of circumvent like trade and negotiations and whatnot. There are individuals that are named as having been banned from the town for those specific deeds. A group of 3 vampires, one whose name is Magnus, the other one is Jeffrey, and the third one is Sorcha. that they were part of is just sort of like a ragtag, almost like mini vampire thieves group that would that, according to the records, would sort of cheat people out of their gold, or sort of get away scot-free because they would sort of charm their way out of trouble from the guards. And in some cases, there are sort of like rumors of them sort of threatening or perhaps even turning people who sort of dissented against them. That's where it gets like a little muddy, is like how much of that is real and how much of it is not. You read it and, you know, it sounds well written and put together and perhaps plausible. It sounds like a record of like there was sort of complaint and investigation and like due diligence behind these things, and that there was probably perhaps like legitimate reasons for people to be concerned about these three individuals in particular. This all dates back to around 7 years ago, when this group was running through the town. And there was a fear that came with that sort of like they would expand through the use of spreading vampirism, and that it would become a more widespread problem. And that if their threats were ever realized, that eventually there would need to be sort of like stronger systems in place that would prevent them from sort of even engaging in the local economy, like sort of banning them from entering trade establishments and whatnot. And so that's sort of how it started unrolling, is that first there were sort of like minor sanctions to keep these three people out of businesses that were afraid of them, and then that sort of expanded to them then being the records say that they became more aggressive as a result, perhaps as like a defense mechanism to being ousted, is that then they started cornering people in sort of like the dead ends open trade market, or cornering them like on their way to and from their homes. And then eventually sort of the efforts were made to remove them from the town in general. And so Drada can read into this what they wish. I would say that, you know, there's the unfortunate side of like bigotry, is that it stems from somewhere sometimes, and that like instances like this, it's plausible that there could be bad apples out there who abuse their powers, their sort of supernatural powers. You don't know whether that's true or not. You have not heard of these three individuals that are named, and so it's hard to know how much, it's hard to really know where that story came from, and if perhaps it was fabricated or not.
Yeah, no, we love a messy history.
What were those three names?
Well, you're not there, but
Oh, that's fair.
If, what were the first two names I gave you? Sorry.
Magnus,
Yeah.
Jeffrey, which I wasn't sure if it was Joffrey or Jeff,
Yeah, sorry, Jeffrey.
and Saoirse.
Sorcha. Sorcha.
Thank you.
Not that I didn't have those three names. I just wanted to make sure you remembered, of course.
Clearly, two of them are very important.
Is there anything else? I think that probably eats up the majority of your time, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think it does. I honestly think the rest of the time, whatever time I have spent, if I can kind of get into a wooded area on my own, just like continuing to do some crossbow practice. And alternatively, Drada still has Tournament of Tale plans and is really working on building his character.
Okay.
No one sees it yet, but it's coming. It's coming.
I do want to make sure. So you do know that Aesop is sort of the headline figure.
Well, absolutely. It's
Okay.
more that Drada is terrified of being in public in that way and is trying to psych themselves up to best support Aesop.
Okay.
Much appreciated.
I just want to make sure that you weren't preparing your own story necessarily.
Absolutely. Oh, let
You're
me
gonna be my-
Drada is, and none of it will come up.
You're my only competition at the tournament.
I will rewind to Mouse briefly. And this is sort of for the benefit of the entire party if there's anything you want to do with this information. But the Unifiers do eventually stop by and let you know, A, that you're free to go, and B, that all of the items that had been stolen were returned. That between sort of all the reported incidents that you knew about, which includes Byron, but also includes the lady who was scared by wolves, and the individual who had something stolen from their private collection, among other things, that the entirety of it has been returned. So if there's anything you want to do with that information, which I assume you do.
Baz, do you still have that emerald?
Clint does still have that emerald, and yes, would provide that to you to try and find diamond.
Glad I'm not the only one who's done that.
Sorry. I seek out Byron with the emerald to try and make a trade.
Yep, and you have no issues doing so. So if you could remove the diamond from your inventory and take the emerald and take the diamond.
Because I didn't provide you the emerald. I think Drada had it. So
Yeah,
assuming
I think that's true.
Drada.
I refuse to give it up. No, yeah, diamond it up.
Does anybody object to me carrying the diamond?
Not at all.
Okay. And for all intents and purposes, you have completed your week in Mistral. I will say the Unifiers have allowed you to leave. It sounds like they're going to stick around for another day. You're sort of aware that like prices probably won't come down until they're gone. But you do know that you sort of have to hit the road. So you could still do a little bit of shopping here before you leave if there's anything you want to pick up. But the sort of prices are still a little inflated for the time being. I'm going to fast forward the clock a little bit, so ignore the sun going up and down while I click a lot. Oh wait, I can just do it a different way. Okay. Oh no, I can't. Sorry, continue.
I think beyond maybe stocking up on some rations and whatnot for the road, I don't think I have anything.
I would at some point follow up message to Avendir and just let him know that one of the passengers might be a vampire, but that they're good people and we just want to help them find a safe space.
Super
Sorry,
casual.
Is that your exact wording? Because you were sort of phrased it as if if you want to just give me your wording.
Avendir, skip the us. I would plan these things. Avendir, I wanted to follow up with additional information. Our two friends are coming with an escort. One of the three is a vampire. They're good people. Nothing to worry about. Thank you.
Beautiful.
The answer you get, it takes a few more seconds to come back than you were probably expecting. And you just get a one-word response that says, "Understood."
Sounds good to me. And I would check up on Cassandra one more time.
You sort of just check in, and she says, still on the road. All's well. Thanks again.
Sweet. Guys, we did good-ish. We kind of left some fires in our path, but overall, net positive.
Town's already on fucking fire. I don't know. We didn't light anything too much else on fire, I guess.
That should have been our group name, Net Positive.
I mean, Mistral was a powder keg in more ways than one. The fact that more things didn't blow up, I think, is a success.
You guys want to see how much black powder we can put in the bag of holding before we head out of town?
In case we need it.
If it were any other town, absolutely. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Caused enough damage.
Yeah, getting out of town maybe before the unifiers are fully out of here, probably not a bad idea. The guards will probably give us a little more trouble if unifiers are not around, so...
And you do that.
On the road again.
Yeah. And the road will be uneventful. Flint continues working on the finishing touches of the new bag of holding. You all will level up to 6.
Yay!
And eventually you will find yourselves at what I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, direct route to Horizon?
No, we're actually going back for the cave.
Okay. Well, you know, it's a good thing that I prepared the Tournament of Tales.
Direct route is good.
Yes.
Yeah, so you do, just for the sake of minor illustration, whoop, you're going this way, and then you're going this way. And
Wow.
Amazing. And you arrive around midday to find a city. I wouldn't say a city, but more of a small rural town that seems to be ramping up for an event. The town itself, as you're kind of coming down the road, just to give it some sort of description, there aren't really tall buildings here. In fact, it's going to take you some work at the top of next session to find the place that you're supposed to go to. But you find that what is a small town seems to be bustling with activity. There are a number of I'm trying to find a way to describe it. This is sort of like a concert hall that has 3 parking garages, knowing that when there's an event in town, they are going to need it, but that otherwise it's probably really dead. And so
Like
it almost
an Olympic park, years after the Olympics happened.
Yeah, but it has that early Olympic energy of like people are starting to arrive, people are starting to get seated, or people are starting to settle in. There's a carriage house that is just sort of like packed with a line of people who are waiting to like check in their horses and whatnot.
I am keeping my eyes peeled for anyone that I see or recognize.
You can roll a perception check. I mean, you're only on the border of this town at the moment. You don't really have the chance to look at everybody, but
That is fine. I am a nervous wreck, so
Yeah.
I am keeping my eyes peeled. But 13's not bad.
yeah, nothing that concerns you that of specific note. What you're sort of just recognizing is that there's a fair amount of people.
Right.
Not necessarily. I'm not suggesting that there's like thousands of people or anything, but there's an aura of excitement in the air. Just looking at the skyline of the town, beyond sort of like this heavy sort of traffic, you do see that there seems to be like 5 pillars or kind of monuments that are 4 of which are sort of encircling the town in almost a diamond pattern, and one of them that is sort of like center stage, which seems to be surrounding this larger park. I'll have an overland map for you guys next session so you can kind of just see what I'm talking about, but you're coming in at an angle where you see a monument that sort of looks like a stacked set of clouds that are almost like on top of each other. In the distance, it's hard to kind of tell what the others are, but this one is sort of painted white, or is sort of like a light marble of some kind. And it's sort of just marking the northern entrance of this town's road. And in the distance, you see just between some sort of what are obvious residential buildings and some sort of like inns and taverns that are sort of set up, and it seems like there's a lot that's going on around this park as well. It just seems like a hub of activity, and it's sort of like a kind of bright and fresh take compared to the small Vind that you were in, or the sort of chaotic Mistral that you're in. This seems like a well taken care of tourist city, if that makes sense, albeit on the smaller end. But as you arrive, we will end the game there, because next session we will actually get into the meat of all that's about to happen.
Oh, jeez, Louise.
We've been building to this for so long.
I know.
Time, Usopp, it's time.
Everything's gonna go well. No issues whatsoever.
Totally well.
You're definitely going to win.
Absolutely.
And
Manifesting.
Yeah.